I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investmentpitch Media and FinTech News Network. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Karl Samsen, the Vice President of Capital Markets for GDA Capital, a global financial institution for emerging technologies, including blockchain and digital assets. Karl, thanks so much for taking the time and welcome to the show.
Ashton, appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'd love to start out with a little bit of background. If you could tell me about yourself, how you got into venture capital, and what first interested you in blockchain.
Interesting. So you're taking me back here. So I went to school. Actually, I'll preface it off by saying that I come from the traditional Wall Street financial background. In terms of that's where the roots of my family have been for the last 30 something years. And I went to school thinking that potentially I was going to join one of my family members in the business, found entrepreneurship rather early. Blockchain and mostly Bitcoin back then was kind of the hot thing in terms of, what people were throwing their money at in college, besides the unusual. And I got in a little early in Bitcoin. Didn't really have any significant interest or, appreciation of the space until I really ended up, leaving college and moving back to New York, where I'm from. When I did that, I got in touch with a individual who was a rather large art collector. And this is during the time, I believe it was early 2018, mid 2018, when the industry was just kind of coming down from the massive highs. And, unfortunately, there was a lot of lack of liquidity, but there was a lot of great creativity in terms of there were projects that, had some fantastic ideas, but, lacked on leadership or money or whatever the, whatever the potential, crunch was at that point. So this gentleman wanted to figure out how to monetize or create liquidity for his, massive art collection, obviously using blockchain. So I'm a new guy. I worked for maybe a year in the registered investment advisory business. Started to get my license. What did I really know about the business? So I reached out to everyone that I thought had some sort of good foothold in the space, and that's when I ended up connecting with my now partner and our CEO of GDA Capital, Michael Gord. So Michael, myself, and this individual at the time, the large art collector, we established a meeting in the city because Michael's and our firm is half based in Toronto, half based in New York. And so Michael flew down from Toronto. And so this individual, this large art collector, brought his CEO, me, and we were going to meet Michael in the then office of his former company, MLG Blockchain, which merged with SDM to make what is now GDA Capital. So, we're in this meeting in a tiny little WeWork office, poorly lit, maybe the size of my closet. And I'm thinking, God damn, this is going to go, south really fast. I should be turning in my my employment papers. I should definitely be reworking my resume. Like, what was I thinking? And Michael started talking, and he just captured the audience. Like, I've never seen somebody capture an audience. He knew exactly what he was talking about. He had the experience in the space, and immediately I was like, wow, not only is this guy brilliant, but his vision and where this potentially could go is unlimited. Mm-hmm. So from then, I basically wanted to figure out, how do I get myself more involved in the space from more of a financial perspective? Mm-hmm. I want to be in the market. I don't want to be a client of the market. So fortunately, MLG Blockchain back then was doing a significant amount of roadshows in New York City, and they had really great relationships with the Canadian consulate. And so I went to one of the roadshows at the Canadian consulate, and I participated. And at the end, I basically said, "Look, Michael, I want to join you guys. I think that there's a significant opportunity here for you to create an investment bank. This is where I see the young generation, performing and having the freedom to be as financially creative as possible. The rest is pretty much history. I joined them that day. We merged with SDM. We created GDA, and now we are, as you said, a full-fledged financial institution for what I deem the modern economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great little backstory, Karl. And I have been friends with Michael for a few years, and I know that he's so passionate about blockchain. And when he was in MLG blockchain, yeah, he could definitely captivate the audience. And now that this merger has happened, you have GDA Capital. Now, can you talk about what you and Michael and the rest of your team have built at GDA Capital and what you're searching for in the market right now?
Yeah, so we've built basically a epicenter or a bridge between what we deem the modern economy and institutional capital, or we can call it retail capital. People looking to gain access to what I believe is the forefront of the next generation in terms of financial instruments and in terms of financial rails. We essentially provide two services. We are both educators and we are, I would say, liaisons through the Wild West of what is cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. So, mostly whom we deal with are high net worth individuals, venture capital funds, hedge funds. In the rare circumstance, we deal with traditional funds that, are looking to potentially diversify themselves into cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. Those range from, broker dealers to family offices, etc. But, mostly everyone that is coming to us either for help, for investment ideas, for relationships, introductions, trading, they are already experienced in the industry. It's a rare moment, but it's also a fantastic moment when we're able to take somebody who, has heard of the space, been following the space, doesn't have a foothold in space, educate them, hold their hand for about, 6 months or so. And finally, they're ready to invest, their first 7-figure check into the industry. And, from there, it's off to the races. Our job really, or my job specifically, is mostly to, protect them in the industry by making sure that they can get in smoothly, but also protect them on the outside or on the exit. Because as we know, it's a volatile industry. We look for projects and we look for companies and management teams that allow us to create meaningful relationships that also have the infrastructure for us to be able to mitigate potential interest in this industry.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And yeah, you are right about the institutional interest. Just in this past, since the beginning of 2020 alone, there's been all of these different institutional not products, but more institutions just showing their support, including chartered banks and Visa and MasterCard. And I want to get into that a little bit on the institutional side. But I just want to talk about what you talked about here is warming people up to their first investments, and the fact that there is so much institutional interest already. There's a lot of other hedge funds now and money managers that are doing similar things, but I'm sure GDA has found some kind of niche or competitive advantage or unique feature. Can you talk about, what stands GDA Capital out from all of these other managers?
Well, we are people first. We believe, and I don't mean to quote Steve Jobs, but, we invest in people, not product. And granted that, this is a very product heavy industry in terms of, we operate on what is a distributed, universe or decentralized universe. And, that is essentially in reality, almost our God. We believe that our clients, number one, always come first. So we are very client focused in terms of providing white glove services and, being around for our clients, 24/7. In addition, we always look for the best possible people that are in blockchain to take or receive capital, right? Mm-hmm. We look for those, those Elon Musks, those Steve Jobs, those, Jeff Bezos of the blockchain universe that have been yet to be discovered because they're either transitioning from the modern financial system now into what is the blockchain arena, or they have yet to really discover or their project has yet to really discover what their best use case is. I mean, there's a lot of projects out there. There's a lot of great use cases, a lot of real world applications, a lot of room for adoption. And what we find 50% of the time is that, there's outside of their intended niche, another use case for their project that might even be lower hanging fruit, that can drive cash flows. And, that's, it's always a very positive thing about this business is that, there is no one mold. It's, very,
Yeah. On the, with these startups, especially in 2020 right now, partially because of the DeFi movement, there's been a huge influx of capital. According to some of these sites, the amount locked in smart contracts went from $1 billion in the beginning of the summer to now almost $8 billion. And it seems like this is becoming almost bubble-like with how fast this money is flowing in. But as well, we've seen all these institutional announcements, and there seems to be a lot of legitimacy behind it as well. So there's a lot of different variables. What do you see as, and do you see like actual value behind the reason that a lot of these institutional investors may be investing into this DeFi space right now, and how come it's grown, eightfold in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, look, DeFi took the industry by storm, and there are many reasons for DeFi having taken the industry by storm. If you look at, capital markets, you look at the 10-year treasury, you're sub 100 bips. You look at the last 30 years of interest rates and of, fixed income, and you see yield has basically dropped off. So people or traditional income investors or fixed income investors, which mostly make up part of our traditional side of or institutional side of capital inflows, they're looking for diversified yield, right? They're looking for something to replace what they were used to back in 2000 when high yield bonds were in the 15% to 20% per annum, yield rate. And, because they are looking for that new yield, it creates an opportunity as well as a greater appetite in terms of taking on more risk. We both know the risks that come with crypto. I think that DeFi right now does a somewhat decent job of mitigating the risk in terms of the high appreciation of locking up assets or lending or, borrowing, etc. But, the main reason is, people are hungry and they're not really satisfied with where they're eating. They're looking to, venture off into space that might feed them, what they're accustomed to eating. And DeFi has basically been able to support that for the institutional markets.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a major trend right now. Not sure whether to call it a bubble yet, or, if it will become a bubble in the near future here, but it's growing exponentially. And some of that, all the trends are cyclical. So when there's huge ups, there can also be huge downs. And that for institutional investors, at least ones that are looking more in long term, it's probably not a good idea to start investing at the top of the bubble. So in terms of the clients that you have and the discussions that you've had, do you see other things on the radar for institutional investors in blockchain beyond this trend?
Well, I'll start off by mentioning, what's I guess on our mind, but we haven't started talking about yet, and that is DeFi a bubble, or what is going to be the end of DeFi? And I personally have no logical view on that. I think that in terms of the enormity of the opportunity, I mean, you're looking at a multi-trillion-dollar financial market system that it could potentially disrupt, and what that has done. With great reason has definitely been the spur of regulation discussions. I mean, you see a central bank looking at the growth levels of crypto. Granted that a few $1 trillion in gross market cap is still not something as significant as what we're currently accustomed to in the traditional markets, because Apple's company is over $1 trillion at most periods of time. But because there is the possibility, and because essentially this world is unlimited, or this technology is unlimited in terms of the users for it, there is definitely behind the scenes talks of deregulation amongst traditional markets in favor of potentially regulation amongst DeFi. There is no true end in sight for us in terms of where the DeFi opportunity will start to essentially collapse. We've, as liaisons to the crypto space, been investing outside of DeFi, more towards the long-term vision of crypto, which I personally am of the opinion will be data and secure data storage, etc. One of the projects we're very bullish on is Constellation Networks. Reason for that is because, one, they've positioned themselves as, I wouldn't say a threat, but definitely a competitor to Ethereum in terms of creating their own mainnet on which they can start building DeFi products or whatever the new product currently is. They also have a transaction layer on their protocol that allows them to integrate with ERC20. So essentially you can pass through investments or assets across the layers. But mostly we're looking towards long term. I mean, it's great for us to be, making 10x in, 3 months on, XYZ project that's here today, gone tomorrow. We're focusing on what's here forever.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Karl. Well, we're running out of time in the interview, but what right now is GDA Capital looking for in terms of, are you looking for more startups to talk to or investors, potential partners, and how can they reach out and discuss with you and find out more information?
We're always looking to discuss opportunities with new investors. We certainly have a large backlog in terms of projects that we can support and we can provide access to. If anyone ever wants to get in contact with our firm, myself, any individual, we make ourselves very accessible. Just, look me up on LinkedIn. One of the best things, and I'll attribute this to, discussions I've had with traditional, broker dealers and investment advisors and financial analysts, et cetera, is that, the greatest firms they've ever worked at, had something all in common, and that was the fact that they all had an entrepreneurial spirit. Mm-hmm. And what that means to me is, or what we tend to, or how we've replicated that in terms of GDA's approach to, clients and merchant banking services and, capital markets, is we make ourselves, no matter if you're the CEO or the chairman or the head or the VP of whatever department, if you are our client, it is always in our best interest to deliver to the best of our capabilities for you. So we will make everything under the sun, and we will do everything under the sun for you in order for you to participate in what we see as the next generation of finance.
Mm-hmm. That's really great of you, Karl. And it sounds like GDA Capital is doing well, and I wish you all the best moving forward with your team. I will leave the link to your LinkedIn and to the website for GDA Capital in the description box below for the viewers. Thanks so much for taking the time. All the best moving forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
Ashton, appreciate it. Take care. Have a great weekend. Everyone else, enjoy.